So, as I mentioned to you before, that's Grant McCracken, the author of Chief Culture Officer. He's written more recently a book called Culturematic, which I would also recommend that you get. Look up, he's got several other books that are slightly more academic, like Flock and Flow and Transformations, but are all really good for understanding how culture works. So in Chief Culture Officer, the book that I was mentioned in that he wrote about 5 years back, one of the key ideas he has in demonstrating the importance of the Chief Culture Officer is the idea of the blind side. And you guys know it as the movie, and maybe you've read the book. Anyone here read the book? A couple people? Okay. So while the movie is kind of about the relationship between this woman and the football player, a lot of the book is about really kind of the inside football sort of knowledge, right? And the fact that NFL teams started paying a lot of money for their left tackle, which was previously like this really kind of unheralded, nondescript position. But it became really important because, and I'll do a little visual aids here, if you're a quarterback and you're probably right-handed, you're looking down the field like this, and there's a 240-pound defensive end who's coming with 440 speed, and he's going to hit you in the back, and not only are you going to fumble the ball, but you're probably going to be out for 5 weeks because the guy just destroyed you. So having a left tackle protect your blind side became really important, and that all of a sudden became a job where guys were making no longer $300,000; they were making $1.3 million. So the Chief Culture Officer works kind of as a defensive position, preventing what could be catastrophe. So it does things like knowing that fans love the way a brand looks, and if you change the logo, people are going to be really angry, right? So Tropicana comes out with a new look for their brand, and it is universally hated. And you can come up with probably a dozen other examples, whether it's Gap, whether it's what was it? There was Snapple, I want to say, or maybe a couple of others, where they changed their look, and the reaction was so horrific that they had to change it back, right? That's where a Chief Culture Officer says, hey, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Not to say that the new looks weren't good, but they just weren't right, culturally speaking. A great example is Nike, talking about kind of a understanding culture, because they've had it from both sides, right? They smoked Adidas, who was really the only game in town for a very long time. If you were an elite level runner or soccer player, you wore Adidas. And then Nike came in out of nowhere. Who are these little guys in Oregon thought Adidas? And they punched them right in the face. And then Nike turned around and they got kind of lazy, and they didn't really jump on the aerobics boom of the 80s. And Reebok came in and they punched them in the face and said, and grabbed huge market share because Nike wasn't paying attention. So those were the blind side hits.